Hello and welcome to our webinar today, Managing the Data Risks Associated with Unmanned Critical Missions, presented by InnoDisc and broadcast by Aspen Core. I'm Bruce Rayner, and I'll be your moderator today for the Q&A session after the presentation. Our presenter today is Karen Lin, Product Manager for InnoDisc. After Karen's presentation, we will open the lines for a live audio question and answer session. I encourage everybody to post your questions as they come to mind. Please don't wait till the presentation is over to post your questions. And please ask as many questions as you like. To post a question, open the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen, type your question into the Q&A text area, and then click the Submit button. If we don't get to all your questions during the Q&A, InnoDisc will follow up with written responses after the event. Also, as you can see on this slide, you can access InnoDisc on Twitter by typing @InnoDisc_corp. And you can access the presentation at #InnoDiscWebinar. Now, onto the webinar. Over to you, Karen.
Hello everyone, I'm Karen, Product Manager at InnoDisc. Welcome to this InnoDisc webinar. Today's topic focuses on how to secure data storage in critical missions and hostile environments. I will separate the presentation into 5 sections and talk about what the upcoming challenges are and what kind of solutions we can offer. The data risk present in critical missions, how InnoRobust can enact complete data destruction, InnoDisc data security measures, handling remote device management with ICAP. Lastly, we will look at some case studies. Let's first look at an example. This is a real unmanned aircraft system scenario. There is no pilot on board. This mission objective is collecting civilians' data and transmitting it to a central location. The recordings have to be high quality for recognition purpose, which means that the storage system has to be both high performance and high capacity. Because it flies autonomously, all functions have to trigger remotely, and if the onboard electrics crashes, it has to be rebooted as soon as possible. Let's look at what security measures we have available. The InnoRobust SSD series is designed for mission-critical applications and ensure robustness and strong safeguards against harsh environmental conditions. This collection of technologies have been tailored to meet the challenges of mission-critical applications. Using InnoRobust, the devices are fully protected against heat, dust, extreme temperatures, shock, vibration, and other environmental stresses. We also deliver industry-leading data protection technologies to keep sensitive information secure. Our advantages is that we ensure data security from beginning to end. For instance, first, data remains fully intact under an abnormal power supply situation. Second, our SSDs are bundled with specific systems to avoid unauthorized connections. Third, all data can be written with encryption when stored in the SSD. Fourth, data can be destroyed instantly. Unstable power sources are a common challenge for devices in remote and extreme environments. There are 3 different unstable power supply situations that is commonly encountered. First, instability during startup and shutdown can cause system crashes and restarting issues. Second, residual voltage after shutting down can interfere with SSD operation and also damage the device. Third, unexpected loss of power can cause data corruption and, in worst case, lead to total device failure. By taking this risk into account, InnoDisk has designed a full end-to-end power protection by using our iDataGuard, iPowerGuard, and iSeal technologies. Using this, the SSD is able to provide high compatibility and protection towards high-risk environments and ensure data integrity in the event of a sudden power loss. That is to say, the combination of these technologies kicks in when power drops to save your data and SSD integrity. There are different methods to bind with data storage. For instance, we can create a private area for the system and allow access only through authorization. Or we can set a specific password, and while system is powered on, it will check if the password is correct or not. And if the SSD is used as a boot-out device, we can use tcg-opo commands to set a shadow MBR to check authorization before giving access to the real MBR. Recently, there have been discussions about how to crack this kind of password. To stay ahead of potential bad actors, InnoDisk has intensified the protection and bundled SSD with additional measures to avoid password cracking. This is done through collaboration with the system BIOS to develop a handshaking process. To put it simply, the SSD's firmware will provide a one-time key to the system to encrypt a password, and then send it to the SSD. The SSD will then decrypt the password with the one-time key. If confidential data has already written to the SSD, and there might come a time when you want to erase it to avoid data leakage. We have different erase function levels that we can implement for any SSD. The first is the fastest, Quick Erase. When you trigger Quick Erase, the data will be erased in just a few seconds. Second, if you need an even more reliable erase process, our SSD supports secure erase. It doesn't only erase data, but overwrites the data and then erases it again, depending on the military standard. The number of erase and program cycles varies. Besides quick erase and security erase, we have a destroy function that erases all data and firmware, which renders it unrecoverable. If that is still not enough, we have an automatic destroy function called Physical Destroy. Physical Destroy technology is a self-discharging mechanism activated via high voltage input which destroys the SSD controller and NAND flash cells. The mapping table outlines the standards for different erase algorithms. Our security erase technology meets the standard of the U.S. Navy, Air Force, and Army, the Department of Defense, the National Security Agency, and the National Industrial Security Program Operating Manual Supplement. Up until now, we have been talking about the data which is openly stored on the SSD. We can also store encrypted data on the SSD, which means that even though data is stolen, it will just be a jumbled mess without the right AES key. Encryption functions has been available for many years, especially for enterprise applications. But recently, it is also moved into new markets, such as unmanned systems and edge computing. What we have to focus on is, first, how to ensure data is well encrypted and safely stored in the SSD. Second, encrypting data through hardware encryption on the SSD instead of relying on software-based encryption. Third, the encryption key and authorization management. As mentioned, we can encrypt data on an SSD using an AES encryption engine, Without the key to decrypt the data, it is unrecoverable. With our SSD equipped with a 256-bit AES engine in the controller, all of the data will be encoded and stored in the flash. Before the user accesses the SSD, we suggest that the user first sets the authentication key to set up the system of authorization, and then use TCG-OPO to check each user's credential first. This gives a complete security suite that protects the confidentiality of your data. Moving on to how security ties in with data and cloud management. ICAP is a browser access management platform that allows you to monitor the status of SSD, memory, and other components in edge devices. It does this by gathering data from all connected devices and storing it on a central server, either on a cloud or on a local internet. From here, the data is easily accessible from any cell phone, pad, or laptop with access to the network. If one of your devices happens to crash, you can easily enable backup and recovery, whether from office or your living room. Similarly, you can define your own parameters so that when triggered, ICAP will notify you straight away. ICAP allows the operator to execute draft erase commands that ensure the complete erase of any sensitive onboard data. ICAP offers high capability with support for devices running on both Windows and Linux. And whether it is on-premise or on the cloud, the user-friendly design of ICAP ensures a smooth and efficient development. ICAP can be run on a long list of supported web browsers, allowing quick access with internet connectivity no matter where you are located. ICAP has the function of event notification tracker, will log all changes and keep the user up to speed, enabling a swift resolution to any issues that might occur. And just as important, ICAP integrates InnoDisk's proprietary iCover tool that allows for remotely initialized system backup and recovery. There are 3 different successful stories that can help us illustrate the nature of critical mission applications and challenges. This unmanned vehicle is using ultra-high resolution camera to take photographs of the ground. It needs a solution with high capacity, stable performance, and the ability to work in high altitude conditions. Takeoff and landing, as well as turbulence, meant that the device would undergo lengthy periods of low to medium vibrations. We offered the 2.5-inch SSD 3SR-P that met the challenges of this application. SoC NAND flash provides both high performance and longevity. The SSD was also optimized for right temperature operation and rough conditions such as shock and vibrations. With this storage solution in place, the device was more than ready enough for long-term aerial photography. This guidance training system, which uses mission-critical encrypt, contains sensitive data. Our 3MR2-P can trigger different security erase functions to sanitize the sensitive data in a matter of seconds. This can be done through different methods. But for this case, the customer went for security erase as their go-to data erase tool. To further strengthen data security, all data stored on the device would be encrypted by a 256-bit AES engine. This self-encrypted SSD is also bundled together with a TCG-OPO 2.0 compliant system that strengthens data security and allows data to be accessed on a strict user basis. The system will see action in different environments. This meant both extreme temperatures and terrains. Being compliant with MIL-STD 810G, the SSD is well equipped to handle these environmental challenges. The last case study we will look at is a critical mission application for homeland security, both when it comes to surveillance and monitoring. The two main concerns of the customer were data safety and keeping the SSD running in a tough underwater environment where the flow of electricity is unstable. The InnoDisk team worked together with the customer to reach a solution, the 2.5-inch SSD 3SR3-P that met all the requirements. The SSD came with strong protection against surges and other electrical interference. To handle high salinity and humidity, the SSD was also covered in an isolating layer of conformal coating. Several data erase functions were added to the SSD. Security erase was made available for full data cleaning. Even more notable is the Ultimate Data Gatekeeper, physical destroy, which can make the SSD self-destruct in only 2 milliseconds. Thank you all for joining our webinar today. I hope you have learned something more about the challenges of the mission-critical market and what some potential solutions can be. I'm looking forward to
Thank you, Karen, for an excellent presentation. Before we begin the Q&A, I'd like to remind our attendees to please submit your questions. You can submit your questions by clicking on the Q&A box, enter a question, and then press the submit button. Also, if you would like a copy of the presentation, you can submit a request in the Q&A as well. I would like to remind everyone that you can follow InnoDisk at InnoDisk_Corp, #InnoDiskWebinar. Representing InnoDisk in the Q&A today, we have Karen, who is a presenter, as well as Sierra, who will be covering questions regarding DRAM, Eric on software, and Alfie on FAE questions. Now, on to our Q&A. We have, let me see, I'll start out with a question for Karen. This one is from Mark. Will InnoDisk be released in PCIe? InnoRobust, excuse me, be released in PCIe. Karen?
Okay, yes, we are planning to support a security function. Yeah, InnoRobust product series in the PCIe MEME product line, especially for the popular form factor is M.2, including 2280, 2242. And also we are planning for the U.2 form factor. And all of these products with the PCIe and NVMe will support the AES encryption function and also the erase function, like in our presentation, like quick erase, secure erase, and the destroy function.
Okay, thank you. Another one for you, Karen.
Yes.
What do you see as the number one risk when it comes to managing data and unmanned vehicles? What's the number one risk?
Okay. The biggest risk we are facing right now is data security, and we need to stay on top of the technologies. And if your data fall into the wrong hands, we need to make it impossible for them to actually access it.
Okay. We have a question from Ivan for you, Karen, as well. Can you tell me more about the solutions for drones?
Okay, for the drone application, like I mentioned in my presentation, is for the UAV vehicles. Yeah, the challenge is the same. Yeah, because it needs to operating under a high and stable performance. Because for the drone, the major mission is for the video recording. So anti-vibration is also needed. So like our product, like our small form factor CSAT or 2.5 inch SSD, or maybe for drones cannot use for the 2.5 inch SSD. But the other form factor like M.2 or M-SATA, we also have the wide temperature working range and also the anti-vibration. So for drone, it's the same situation challenges with the unmanned vehicle system.
Okay, thank you. Again, just remind the audience, please submit your questions for our panelists, and we'll include those in the Q&A. Karen, another question for you. So we have, let's see, there are a lot of ways to erase or destroy data, but in the heat of the moment, how easy is it for the user to actually start the process of data destruction?
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have different ways of executing data erase. This is something we can customize, so it is up to customer. It can be done with the flick of a switch, like for hardware trigger. And also we have the software function, like our iSmart, we have the iSecurity button. And you also can use our iSecurity software to trigger off the erase. So we have different approach ways, including the hardware for a switch or pin header in 2.5 inch SSD. And also we have the software or send a command by our iSmart, and there's a section of the iSecurity software.
Okay, thank you. Another question from Ivan. What products are used in the drones? And can they be shown on the slides? What products are used?
Okay, for drone depends on your system's design. For my experience for the drone, I know because the limitation of the system, they are usually using for the SD card or micro SD card, and also with on-board design IC, like we have the BGA chip on board. And maybe some of those customers they are using for the drone for commercial usage, maybe they were using EMC, but that is the commercial market. For industrial market for drone, we are using the BGA, like in notice we call nano SSD, because that is more reliable than EMC.
What's it called again? Just repeat that.
Sorry, can you say it again?
You said it's called, can you repeat the name?
Okay, nano SSD.
SSD, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, again, just a reminder to everybody, if please submit questions for our InnoDisc panel, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. So another question here, again for you, Karen. What's the main benefit or benefits of TCG Opal?
Mm-hmm. Okay, other than making your data more secure, I would say it's a great way to set different ranges depends on the user. Because for TCG Opal, it is for different users in the independent area in one of the SSD. So for instance, user one can only have to access one of half the SSD. And the other user two only can access their own half of the SSD. All of the users have their credential password and the access area. So that is very independent area and to secure different usage in one of the SSD in the system.
Okay, thank you. Again, here's another one for you. How does quote unquote physical destroy work?
Okay.
Physical destroy.
Mm-hmm. Physical destroy, as the name says, actually destroy the hardware of the SSD. And it does by the sending an electric current through the controller NAND flash to destroy all of the data. But it needs the cooperate with the SSD design and the system design because we're using for the hardware destroy. So that means for customer design, they also need the high voltage input to connect with our SSD. And for the measurement, we suggest customer using the 300 watts of the power supply and 24 volts. And then it can ensure SSD, all of the circuit, like I mentioned, controller, NAND flash, will be destroyed totally.
Okay. Thank you. Just a reminder to our audience, if you would like a copy of the slides at the end of the presentation, at the end of the session, end of the webinar, please submit a request through the Q&A box, and we'll be sure you get a copy of that. We have one more question here, Karen, for you. Again, encourage the audience to submit your questions now. The question is, do you have any flash products coming out soon? Does InnoDisk have any flash products?
Okay. We recently launched our fire shield SSD. That is a new product. And we put it in direct flames at 800 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes. And we were still able to recover all of the data stored inside. So that is a very outstanding product spec to use it in the vehicle, in avoid when there is an accident happened for the fire. So SSD can ensure the data will be stored inside, even under the very, very higher temperature, and also in 30 minutes. So we can ensure the data is recoverable, like a black box.
Right. Okay, good. So that's the last question we have. If you have another question, please submit it now, and we'll get to it. I'll give just a few moments to see if there are any additional questions. And again, if you would like copies of the slides, please submit the request through the Q&A box. Just wait a little bit for any additional questions to come in. So if there are no more questions, I'd just like to thank Karen Lin, Product Manager for InnoDisk, for her presentation and also for her responses during the Q&A. And I would like to thank all of our attendees for joining and participating in today's webinar, Managing the Data Risks Associated with Unmanned Critical Missions. Just a reminder, if you would like to follow InnoDisk, you can do so at InnoDisk_Corp, hashtag InnoDiskWebinar. So on behalf of InnoDisk and AspenCore, I'm Bruce Rayner saying thank you very much for joining us today, and goodbye.